Welcome to the Mental Edit, where we keep it real, unfiltered, and honest, because mental health is complicated. I'm Meghan.
And I'm Rachel. We're here to have candid conversations about mental health, what it is, what it isn't, and everything in between.
The Mental Edit is for educational and informational purposes only. We are mental health professionals, but this podcast is not therapy, medical advice, or a substitute for professional treatment. If you're struggling, we encourage you to reach out to a licensed mental health provider. And if you're in crisis, please seek immediate help from a trusted professional or emergency services. Now, let's get into it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are kicking off season 2 of the Mental Edit podcast.
Our summer series.
Yes, excited to be back. So the topic of season 2 is going to be focusing on different terms that we have noticed are kind of being co-opted by, popular culture, social media. And while it's great that we have raised awareness around mental health and all these different facets of mental health to a point where people are talking casually about it, some of these terms, most of all of these terms really have deeper roots, deeper meanings, and it's important to not talk about them so casually that they lose their meaning, if that makes sense.
Or villainizes them.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that therapy speak has become more common on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and that we are more aware and learning about different patterns and relationships and things. But also what I'm hearing from my patients are they'll come in and they'll be like, I think I might be a narcissist, or I'm being gaslit. And a lot of these terms are being used and abused outside of their true context.
And sometimes what I see is that I will talk through something with a client and I'll say, it sounds like you got triggered. And they're like, oh, I no, triggered. I can't use that term. Or like, I don't have PTSD. That's for war veterans. And I do have to explain to them that, these terms are real. The feelings feelings and emotions they elicit are also real. And when used appropriately, they can help you understand what's going on with you.
Yes. So some of these words are being used and abused. So in this season, we are going to explore different themes of these words and terms. So today we're going to talk about different words we hear in relationships.
Yeah, we tried to bucket all the terms we came up with into categories. So today is relationships.
We're going to do body image, and different terms with body image, different terms that come with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And then we're going to explore personality disorders because they've become really villainized and overused
and
in
mainstream
common language like narcissist or antisocial. And we're getting away from the true psychological meanings of these words. Yeah. So let's start with relationships.
Okay.
Let's start with the term gaslighting. Everyone is bringing up gaslighting, and it's a great term when we use it appropriately, and because we can understand people around us more, the person who's gaslighting us, but it shouldn't just be used willy-nilly. So do you want to talk really about how gaslighting came about?
Gaslighting is from a movie from, the 1940s?
Yes.
And it involved a husband and wife, and he was gaslighting her by turning down the lights and then sort of telling her he wasn't turning down the lights is kind of my understanding of it. But they were gaslights, and that's where the term gaslighting came from.
Yeah. So what we think it means, or what it means to me and I see in my patients, is they start to feel like they come in like, I think I'm going crazy in this relationship. He's gaslighting me. I just feel like that he's not validating my reality. And it really comes from poor self-esteem or sense of self in not being secure. But just because we have a disagreement or views don't align doesn't mean we're being gaslit.
Yes. And I think I've seen it used as a way to stop arguments or shut people down. So people will say, oh, you're gaslighting me. And as soon as you evoke one of those big terms, like this is abusive, you're gaslighting me, people tend to shut down and the conversation's over and it's not productive anymore.
You just said the word abuse, and that really sticks out. Right away, we see a direct correlation immediately in the term gaslighting and abuse. So you're right. When someone says you're gaslighting me, it's like, oh no, I'm not emotionally or verbally abusing you. So this conversation's over. And then we see escape and avoidance.
Yeah.
So really, what is gaslighting then?
Gaslighting.
When should it be used?
Yeah. So when you are, I would think to have gaslighting, you have to be in an abusive relationship, right? And there are all different ways that you can be in an abusive relationship, something to kind of talk through with, your therapist or provider. That is when it is evoked. It is it does make you feel crazy, right? So gaslighting does challenge your reality. So something that you could have seen or to be true, the other person or partner is going to try to kind of mess with your mind and make you think that didn't happen.
So a really common form of gaslighting I see in patients is they may have been physically abused by their husband.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you made me do it, or I slipped in the kitchen, so I hit you.
Yes.
So it makes you, oh, maybe he did do that, or maybe that did happen. And gaslighting, and we're talking a lot male versus female, but it can go the opposite way as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really see is a distrust in the reality.
Yeah. And so if you've ever been in a relationship where you consistently feel crazy, or I always tell my clients, you have to trust your intuition. So when things are not feeling off, or you're just saying to yourself, I think this is pretty true. You see it a lot with cheating too. You notice someone on their phone all the time. You see Instagram DMs. You just see kind of behaviors that you're kind of like, oh no, or you observe a conversation and you think it's appropriate. That person will try to deny, oh, that conversation isn't appropriate. We're just friends. That is gaslighting.
Yes. What the symptoms that I see in a patient are more like, oh, they really are being gaslit, is when there's difficulty with decision making and they're no longer trusting their own intuition or instinct. And that's how I really know, oh yes, this is gaslighting.
Yeah. And just to also say, gaslighting is so distressing. Like I said, it just makes you feel crazy. No one wants to feel crazy. So it's not a term to be taken lightly, or thrown around, so to speak.
I use it rarely, but when I do use it, I always point out to my patients that, this is a true clinical term, despite what you're seeing in social media. And then I usually give them resources, whether if it's an online resource or a book to read, so they can further understand. And right now we're talking about relationships just as male or female or two partners, but you can also be gaslit with parents or friends or with a colleague or a boss.
Yeah, that's right. You just opened up a bigger conversation, right? With parents or family members. Yeah.
Yeah. So gaslighting doesn't have to be in a partner relationship. It can also be in other relationships that we share.
Okay. All right. Our next term is manipulation.
What does it mean?
We actually, in researching this, discovered it's a physical term, meaning to, skillfully do something with your hands. So manipulating clay or, stuff like that. Yeah.
So,
and it's a French word.
I think it's important to point out that from a therapeutic lens, manipulation isn't always malicious.
Yeah.
It's usually something that someone's do out of fear of survival, or because they feel they have to, whether out of fear of abandonment or that they're not going to get what they need. It's some form of an attachment style that they learned probably in youth to manipulate to get what they need to survive, whether if it's attention or love or something more materialistic.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, it can be a learned skill. So as you age in adulthood, right, you kind of learn everyone's personalities in your family. So you can manipulate a situation to make it more successful, for example, right? This person needs this person needs this. That's technically manipulating, right? To create this environment that's copacetic for everybody, but it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, and in trauma therapy, we're not looking at manipulation as good versus bad or naming it as black and white. It's more so looking at the function or motivation behind the behavior to see why that person, whether boss, friend, partner, or ourselves, were going through with that behavior, and looking at more of a complex lens of the function and the root of manipulation, rather than just saying this is manipulation.
Yeah. So what do you see it used poorly in popular culture?
Yeah. Anytime someone doesn't get what they want or what they expected, they'll oftentimes throw around the word manipulation.
Okay. Yeah.
With using the term manipulation, we really want to make sure that, one, it's appropriate. And also, again, it carries a lot of weight and it can be termed as abusive. So we don't want to just use it because then we're calling that partner, friend, or boss abusive.
And maybe sometimes it could be reframed as strategic.
Yes, it was their way of survival. So what was always the question? What was the function behind the behavior? What was that person, or what were you trying to achieve in saying or doing that? And then we can get to that next step of understanding ourselves or other people on a deeper level and looking for patterns and how to behave.
So our next term is codependency. So where did this term come from?
Yeah, so codependency stems from when someone's self-worth is coming from their ability to help someone.
Okay.
So very similar where it really originated was in people or couples where there was substance abuse.
Yeah.
And they were fused together out of patterns of enablement. So they were codependent. One cannot survive without the other.
Sometimes literally.
Yes.
Okay. So I think people who are codependent have an innate fear of losing their partner in some way, right? So they will do almost anything to prevent that from happening.
Yes, but in a very secure, healthy relationship, we should also have a fear of losing our partner or friendship, or we don't want a new boss. And that doesn't mean that there is codependency or that this is unhealthy.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll have patients come in saying, you know, am I in a codependent relationship? I feel like my friend is codependent on me. Well, let's hear the root of it. Is it based in an unhealthy habit, this fuse of two people, or do we just really enjoy each other and there's a secure attachment style and this is a healthy relationship?
Yeah.
So just because we have a healthy relationship with someone and we really don't want to live without them doesn't mean that there's codependency.
Well, I think that's where this term gets co-opted, right? Because there's a codependency in partnerships, right?
Yes.
We're going to get coffee together. We go to the gym together. We like to do we, right?
Yes.
You start to talk like that. But that's not necessarily the bad form of it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Codependency, when it takes a turn for me, and I work with some clients and couples on this, is when you're taking on the emotions of the other person.
Accepting emotional responsibility.
Yes. So you can have a bad day as my partner, and I can sit there and I can feel bad for you. I can empathize. I can take it in. But it doesn't mean I have to fix it. It doesn't mean I then have a bad day. It doesn't mean I then have to feel sad, right? You are allowed in a relationship empathy without, just ownership of those things. And like, I'm allowed to be okay today, even if you're not.
Absolutely. And I think that's when we get back to the pair in a substance abuse relationship.
Yes.
Because the one person is helping the other get the substance or achieve the high or get the financial resources. And that's when that enablement and one can't exist without the other comes through.
Yeah.
But being supportive and loving spending time with someone or fearing them not being here does not make a relationship codependent. When I think of toxicity, I think of something being contagious and spreading, similar to a chemical.
Yeah.
So when we label someone as toxic, we're like, oh, my sister is so toxic. It means that don't go around them. Don't go near them. You don't want to catch it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's true.
So when we feel we are in a relationship that's toxic or our boss is toxic and you go to your coworker in the lunchroom, like, have you noticed that our boss is really toxic? Right away, that person puts their guard up and is like, oh no, like I need to be careful now. So it's really this term that we use loosely, but it has a lot of hidden weight.
That's really true. And it also is a way for you to not engage with that person, try to work things through, have productive conversations. Like, it's very dismissive. It's like, oh, they're toxic. Like, forget it. They you picture this person kind of creating this chaos everywhere they go.
I'm hearing it being used in even young children and in the schoolyards. And they're being called toxic, or those girls, we don't want to play with them.
This is a perfect example of when a term is just getting taken down just too far.
But it's not right.
Every behavior that someone is doing, particularly with children, has a purpose and a motivation that they might not even be aware of. But to label young kids toxic is tough.
Well, when being that young, that's also when our attachment styles start, which is a basis to a lot of what we're talking about. Do you want to talk a little bit on attachment styles and how they form when we're young and carry with us through relationships?
Yeah, attachment is another big topic that, I like to cover in a separate thing because I have so much to say on it. But basically, the idea is that your primary caregiver, typically your mother/father, but it could be really anyone that's involved in your early life, teaches you what love feels like, teaches you what communication is like. And this can be for good or bad, right?
How to give and receive.
Yeah. So there's lots of different styles that we can get into, but one of the more, there's anxious and avoidant attachments. Those are kind of the more
anxious is based in fear.
Yeah.
Avoidant is based in like abandonment.
Yeah. So anxious attachment style is when your caregiver is sort of inconsistent with their attention and, love for you, so to speak. And that's how your perception of it is. And so when you get those early attachments formed, so to speak, that's what you look for the rest of your life. Truly. Until, until you come to therapy and realize it.
I really think that's why I love with working with young adults in their early 20s, because they're at the stage where they understand a little bit about the origin of some of their behaviors, or they know that some of their behaviors in relationships, whether it's, again, friendships, work relationships, partners, are not sustainable.
Yeah.
And they don't know. They're like, I know this isn't good, but I'm self-aware enough to realize it. It's been a pattern I've been, but where is it coming from? And then we can usually go back to their youth and understand how their mom and dad talk to them, or how their mom would say, if you don't behave this way, then I'm not reading you books tonight, or I'm not putting you to bed.
Yeah.
And we can get back to that and understand, oh, this is why I'm looking for this in a partner. This is why I'm displaying this right now.
Yeah.
So these toxic traits, or these traits of manipulation, really come back to the love that was displayed and given or withheld to or from us as children. When we talk about toxic traits, one of them is,
or really related to attachment also, right?
Yes, is love bombing. And we look at love bombing as someone who texted us every morning, good morning, and they are just love bombing us. Well, no, that person's probably just kind of nice and cares about you. And that's the secure attachment and love that they have known, which is consistency, which is really rare.
That's
parenting and love.
Yes.
So consistent or unconditional love. So this person who is texting you every morning, good morning, or asking you on a date every weekend, isn't love bombing you.
No,
They're showing you consistent, secure attachment.
And some people aren't even used to being checked on like that, right? They didn't have somebody growing up that like every single day checked in on them and said, how was your day? Like, people don't have that. So when you come across something like that, even if it is healthy, it doesn't feel healthy to you. It makes you
foreign
uncomfortable.
to you.
Like
Yes,
this
exactly.
like this concept of like, he's too nice or she's too nice, you know? Yeah.
And that's the beauty of therapy, because we can challenge some of these behaviors and help the person self-discover, oh, no, this person is secure, which also goes into them saying, well, he's too nice. He's just way too nice. And he texts me every day. Or even a colleague, like, they're just way too nice.
Yeah.
And we
I can't trust it.
Yes, they can't, because they weren't shown that. And also my feeling on when in a partner, at least, when we're like, oh, they're just way too nice, I don't want to date them anymore. It's really because we don't feel seen by them. They're not really, yes, they are nice, but they're not seeing us for maybe our flaws or for things that we want to be seen for outside of just who we present as. They're not getting to that deeper level and challenging us. So the relationship just seems surface level. So we write it off as, oh, he's too nice, because we're not getting to that next deeper level of feelings, emotions, interest. It's just staying at this really lovey-dovey stage.
And could it be also that they have seen your flaws and they still love you anyway?
Yes.
And that also is a foreign concept to some people.
Exactly. So it's not that he's too nice.
Yeah.
It's unconditional love or like.
Yeah.
But I think also it gets to this point of lust, where we feel like this person's just lusting us, or the idea of us, or liking the idea of us, and not actually who we are. And that's when we say, oh, he's just being too nice.
Yeah.
We want to be seen. We want people to acknowledge that we're different. As humans, we want to be seen as individuals and something special and unique. And by someone just kind of showing this pure infatuation, we're not feeling acknowledged.
Yeah. Our next term is red flags. So I imagine this probably has some sports. I don't even need to Google that. But red flags are flags on the play, right?
I actually think it has
from soccer.
War etymology. No,
really? Okay, let's
check. Pause. We're gonna Google. So, okay, we looked into it.
We're kind of both right. Yeah,
it's a sign of danger. Yeah, so either on the football field or in war, it's signaling danger.
Yeah. So I think this is an example of something, again, that has kind of been co-opted, and I mean, it's the theme of the whole episode. But I think you have a good way of talking about red flags.
Yeah. So it's my famous line. I said it in the depression episode, stage versus trait.
Yeah.
We see something once in someone, maybe they wore a shirt that we didn't like, or our
cargo shorts.
Yeah. Or the person in the cubicle next to us brought a tuna fish sandwich. And right away we're like, oh, red flag, I'm not being friends with them.
Yes.
Or our boss had one really bad day, and right away, red flag, we don't like them.
Yeah.
It's like this ick. Another relationship term. We won't get into ick, but we get this one ick, red flag. We text all of our friends, red flag, and it's done.
Yeah.
But we never gave this person a true chance or explored a relationship with them to really see, is this just a one-time thing, stage, or is this a repetitive trait? Is the colleague bringing a tuna fish sandwich every day?
Well, it's also something that you don't like about something. Is that a deal breaker or not for you, right? This concept of a deal breaker. And I think red flags, I do use it a lot in session because sometimes I will have a client that tells me about this relationship and then I'm like, all right, let's go back. Right. And we go to the beginning and I'm like, okay, so that was a little bit of a red flag.
Because you probably also have seen the pattern at that point of some other traits, and now you can call out the red flags.
Yes. So I think it's important to differentiate between you don't like their shirt and you don't like how they treated their mom, for example, right? Like those are different red flags, right? And then it's important to examine your values, right? What are you really looking for in a partner, right? And so if they don't meet some of the qualities that is something really important to you, then perhaps some of the behaviors will be red flags.
Yeah. So if you were in a friendship or relationship and someone was showing up late every time, that would be a sign of a red flag, because
if you care about being on time.
That is true.
Right.
So,
and if you don't, it's whatever.
So red flags are subjective.
Yeah, they are.
Maybe not in war on the football field, but in relationships.
That's interesting. That's true. Yeah.
They can be subjective.
And my clients all know this, but like when we're talking about something, I'll just go,
That's your red flag?
That's my red
Maybe
flag.
you need one for your pocket, the way a referee has.
You ignored that one, right? And I think, again, over time, after time, you can make note of these things over time, right? If they keep coming up, that's when you know it's an issue for you. However, to go back in retrospect, like we do have a little bit of a laugh about it sometimes, but sometimes it's deeply painful because it's like, oh yeah, I sort of ignored my intuition. Same way with other stuff we talked about this episode. Never ignore your intuition. If something is telling you it's off, it's off.
I also see in patients that they sometimes like to minimize red flags, and that's when they need the accountability.
That's why you got to wave them.
Yeah. So be like, no, that is a red flag. Yeah. Like you are in danger.
Yeah.
So we need to look at red flag as the word danger. Are you in danger? Are you not?
Yeah.
I think I know it's important that we talk about language in some of these terms, because using them is going to shape how we see ourselves and how we see each other and how we relate to the world. So really getting to the truth of these terms is going to reality check us.
And I think we provided in this episode a way to use them in therapy. So whenever you're exploring something with your therapist, it's okay to use all these terms, in my opinion, right? It's more just like when you start tossing them around casually or as a way to distance yourself from people.
Or to label.
Yeah. That's when they become problematic.
Absolutely. They have a purpose. They are important when used appropriately, but we don't want to villainize them.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for listening today. Next episode, we're going to talk about body image.
Yes. And the terms with body image and how we use them.
Yeah. And even just the fact that we talk about other people's bodies, we can get into that too.
Yeah. What I think is most cool about this series, language can be a bridge and can help us to get places and understand things, but it can also be a barrier. So we're trying to break these barriers around terminology in this season and really help people understood some of the themes around these topics with the terms. Yep. Great. So we'll see you in next episode where we discuss further body image and how we talk about ourselves and others.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to subscribe to The Mental Edit and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Give this video a like if you found it helpful, and drop a comment with your thoughts or questions. We want to hear from you. You can also DM us on Instagram at The Mental Edit with topics you'd love for us to cover. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. No fluff, no BS, just real talk about what healing actually looks like.